You wouldn't believe the lengths they go to just to get a meal. In the freezing mountains, with temperatures below zero, a brave girl dives into the water without hesitation to catch fish. They build a dam by the stream and create a hunting device, risking their lives to catch some trout. To catch rabbits, they set up hundreds of traps in the forest. This is the toughest season I've ever seen. On the 6th day of the new season of Survivor in the Wild, Kai wakes up to find everything covered in a thicker layer of snow than yesterday. Last night was the coldest they've ever experienced. The few centimeters team is down to 2 people. Rod had to quit due to back pain from kidney issues. Now it's just few centimeters and Granny Tracy. Tracy really misses being sandwiched between 2 men at night. In this freezing weather, the closer, the better. The Wazzy team isn't doing much better. Even with Sarah sleeping between 2 men, she still felt cold, and Jack said he felt like his balls were freezing off. If they hadn't improved their mattress during the day, they might have turned into popsicles by now. The Kai team has it the best, with 2 amazing girls and 1 guy. Every night, Joe from the Kai team feels like he's on cloud 9. Their shelter is also the best, allowing them to sleep comfortably every night. A lion appeared near their shelter, and its roar was terrifying. They huddled in their blankets, too scared to make a sound. The next morning, when Kai went hunting, they saw tracks nearby. Gary thought they were lion tracks, and they were everywhere. Kai felt the lions were close. The tracks were huge, so they had to be extra careful. Soon, they found the remains of a fresh prey. To avoid bringing the scent back to the shelter, they left the bones behind. From now on, they had to carry weapons or bows when going out. Lions had become their biggest threat. If it were me, I would have taken those fresh bones back to the shelter. If it were me, I would have taken those fresh bones back to the shelter and made soup. Joe was resting at the shelter, feeling weak and unwell during the day, leaving the hunting and chores to the 2 girls. But at night, he's as energetic as a dragon. The Weiss team, meanwhile, mostly fetches water. Jermaine got lazy the other day and used snow to boil water, almost costing a teammate's life. Sarah had to go to the stream for better water, and only then did he improve. They desperately need food. Today, they planned a hunt, but Jermaine is afraid of the cold. He saw a rabbit nearby but had no weapons, so he could only watch helplessly as the rabbit bolted away. Realizing there were rabbits around, he quickly went back to set up traps. The Weiss group had already set traps by the creek and built a dam to catch fish, hoping for trout. Jack's foot injury still hadn't improved. He heard that peeing on it might help, but Sarah thought it was infected. Jack claimed his father was a toe scientist and that he knew a bit about toes himself. He believed the infection was a sign of healing. Sarah couldn't help but laugh, thinking, well, if he thinks it'll get better, then fine. It's not my foot anyway. Was headed to the stream to check on the fish. He noticed the water level was low and there were too many rocks in the deeper parts. If they could turn those rocks into a dam, it would help. But in this freezing weather, getting into the water would drain their body heat fast. They needed to catch fish, so they lit a fire nearby to warm up quickly. Stripping off their fur clothes, they risked freezing. They waded into the water to move the rocks. Jack was shivering and yelling. Within 2 minutes, their fingers went numb and Jack's foot turned purple from the cold. Hopefully, this dam would be worth it. Meanwhile, Trisha's group was also making adjustments. Preparing for a hunt, Granny Trish, the main provider, now stays home. They haven't eaten in 6 days, and Jeremy is starving. While Jeremy went out, Granny Trish stayed in the shelter carving wooden toys, likely because it was too cold outside. Jeremy isn't in the best shape. He went to check the traps, but although they were triggered, they didn't catch anything. He reset the traps while Tracy sat in the shelter, with snow constantly blowing in. Why not spend time fixing the roof? Is carving wooden toys really that fun? Jeremy explored nearby and saw a grouse just 2 meters away, but unfortunately, he missed it. Twice in a row, he failed to catch anything. He deserved it. Granny mocked him with her wooden toys, and the grouse taunted him from the front. His arrow got stuck in the wood, making him feel brain dead, a total mess. Every day, the 2 girls head out to hunt and work by the river. Today, Joe tagged along. They split up. Gary and Joe went fishing, while Kai took the bow to hunt. The river had frozen overnight, so they had to break the ice with stones first. Joe was clueless, throwing tons of stones without making a dent. Since physical attacks weren't working, I jokingly suggested using magic, like peeing on the ice to melt it. After clearing the ice, they used worms as bait. The trout were plentiful. Jeremiah was out looking for rabbits. There were many rabbits nearby, and he was setting up some hunting traps. He was so stingy with the carrots that I wondered if any rabbit would actually come. Maybe only those rabbits who just broke up and were looking for a rope to hang themselves. Jeremiah has cut a bunch of branches and arranged them to make the traps look more natural. Let's see if any rabbit decides to end it all. Kai is out with a bow and arrow, spotting rabbit tracks and a rabbit in the thicket. He takes aim and shoots. Whether he hits it or not isn't the point. It's all about looking cool and acting fast. The rabbit is right right there, but he misses several times. Kai, don't get mad. This rabbit has already given you enough chances. 3 strikes and you're out. What more do you want? Why not ask the rabbit to cook itself and serve it to you? Meanwhile, Gary and Joe are fishing. Joe is finally about to start. Finally, Gary did something unexpected. He dove straight into the water, leaving me speechless. In the wilderness survival game, that was a pretty wild move. The worst part? He didn't even catch the fish. Why so hasty? The fat fish he almost had slipped away because of his dive. Gary claimed it was an instinctive reaction, not intentional. His move and explanation were both surprising. With that instinct, he almost seems like a caveman. His fur and shoes got soaked, which was a big loss. Jermaine came to the stream and saw trout in the water. The rabbit trap was already set. Alright, if they can still catch some fish, then food won't be a problem. He also plans to build a dam here. Wes came running over, and they decided to build the dam together. For such a small stream, they even managed to build a bridge across it. Should I call them smart or foolish? They moved stones into the water, and Sarah cut branches to block it. Soon, the dam was built. They also found some crayfish, and Sarah prepared a device to catch them. They did a lot of work today, hoping for a good harvest. The wind outside was very strong, so they returned to the shelter to warm up. Jeremy was still out hunting. But he didn't catch anything. After several days of cold, he's getting used to the temperature here. He saw a lot of fresh moose droppings on the ground, which looked quite appetizing. He plans to collect some to grind into coffee for Grandma Tracy. There were also moose tracks in the snow. A moose weighs 1,500 pounds. If he could catch one, they'd have roast meat every day. He did spot a moose nearby, and the moose saw Jeremy too. They seemed to be in a standoff, but Jeremy chose to go home. If it were me, I'd definitely pull out my red underwear to attract it. Jeremy is such a wimp. Jeremy. He went to check the rabbit traps, but it was a mess when he got there. Rabbits had been around, so he reset the traps. Sarah thought the rabbits were too big for the snares, but Jermaine knew better. He ignored her nagging and told her to focus on her fish traps instead of complaining. Sarah believed she had more experience, but Jermaine found her whining really annoying. Back at the shelter, Sarah vented to Wes about Jermaine. Wes also thought Jermaine was a ticking time bomb, which showed the underlying prejudice white people had against black people. Meanwhile, Jermaine was outside setting more traps, hoping to catch a rabbit. With a house full of people to feed, including a strong little girl and the elderly, Jermaine was the main provider. That night, a rabbit came by. The rabbit detected various scents and avoided the trap. Sarah suggested enlarging the snare, though I doubt her rabbit-catching skills given her past failures. On the 7th day, Vaz checked the creek early and noticed the water level had risen, with fish swimming around. It was a prime day for fishing, especially if they could find bait. Jack was crafting a fishing tool, and Vaz found bugs and dung that might work as bait. Sarah also went foraging. Everyone was putting in effort, which was great. Jack and Vaz went to the creek to fish, standing on the ice, hoping for some luck. Sarah found some cacti, which could provide about 40 calories. Before they caught any fish, eating some cactus to fill their stomachs was a good idea. Sarah collected a lot of cacti and planned to make lunch for her teammates. Vaz and Jack didn't have suitable bait, so they couldn't catch any fish. Sarah brought the cactus back to the shelter. Although it was hard to process, Jack was already satisfied. It was better than sitting in the shelter waiting to die. Everyone in their group was working very hard. Cactus. The taste is like glue, not very appetizing, just a small snack. The Kai team went fishing again, returning to yesterday's spot. The girls just wanted to catch some fish for lunch. Fishing is fine, but hopefully, Gary won't have another instinctive reaction. If he does, Joe might really lose it. A turtle appeared on the water's surface, but unfortunately, it didn't bite and even broke the bait. They kept trying to fish there, each attempt nerve-wracking. Finally, a fish took the bait, and they successfully caught one. This fish weighed about 2 pounds, making today a good day. Lunch was finally sorted, and Joe was so excited he almost cried. This was their first successful hunt, a breakthrough in their survival here. Kai couldn't wait to clean the fish and skewer it on a stick to roast. Soon, the fish was ready. The Kai team was the first to eat meat, and they gained immense confidence from it. The fish tasted amazing, and they saved the innards as bait. Oh my god, I've realized a bit of effort. I had my Brian just can't cry when you have it in that bite of me. It tastes like line now, the same in it right now. Feel the energy.
That bite of meat, it tastes like line. Mouth is sending it right now. Feel the energy, like just...
This feels like
it resets everything back to day one. After eating their fill, they continued fishing. Wes and his team checked the dam they set up yesterday. There were quite a few mushrooms in the water, and if they could catch them, it would be even better. The water had gotten deeper, but Sarah's fish trap still wasn't ready after 2 days. Jermaine was speechless and had to weave faster himself. Sarah thought weaving the fish trap was pointless, which made Jermaine so angry he could scream. They started arguing again over the fish trap. Fans who watched Jeff's season know. Everyone knows Sarah is super annoying.